Star Wars. These things are ridiculously fun. This isn't a special effect or anything. This is it's a toy. Got a Comic-Con, and I'm trying to find the red one. This thing is so cool. It wasn't super expensive either, and I love it. It makes all the right sounds. It glows perfectly. I love this thing. Last night there was some I thought there was an intruder in the backyard, and I went out there and I was like, I went out there and, you know, in the backyard, and I was waving my lightsaber around, and some people across the street were looking at me like I was crazy, but I felt cool. I'm gonna put this away now. So now the title of the video, as suggests, is that I'm going to be talking about these three films right here. The Laugh It Up Fuzzball Family Guy Star Wars Trilogy. It's called Laugh It Up Fuzzball Trilogy. Now you might be wondering, why am I talking about that and why am I not talking about these three masterpieces right here? Because here's the thing. I have tried so many times to make a video reviewing Star Wars, but it ends up way too damn long, and I've got way too many emotions and opinions about it just to fit kind of into one video. So I will do that eventually when I can compress all my thoughts down into single ideas. But for now, I want to talk about the Family Guy Star Wars Trilogy, mainly because if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you've already seen actual Star Wars, so I don't have to summarize the plot for you, because trying to summarize the plot of Star Wars for me is like I go into every detail and I'm way too specific, but let's not get into that. So, if you're my friend, you know that I love Star Wars, and you know that I love movies in general. In fact, I'm making this video because today I found out that a lot more of my friends actually watch my videos about movies than I thought. So, that's why I'm talking about this. So, the Family Guy Star Wars Trilogy. Now, I grew up with Star Wars, grew up loving Star Wars. More recently, and like in the past few years, I've really come to have a better appreciation of it. It wasn't like my favorite thing in the world growing up, but now it's one of my favorite like franchises ever. I mean, look at my shirt. Abrams We Trust. You know. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. And I also grew up with these episodes. Now, I don't know why it is. I knew these existed, but I had never really sat down and watched them all. I had seen snippets of them. I had enjoyed it, but like I never really gave it much thought until one day, basically it was on Netflix, and I watched Blue Harvest, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is awesome, because Blue Harvest, this is Star Wars. This right here, it goes Blue Harvest, which is a parody of A New Hope, Star Wars. Something 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 Dark Side, which is a parody of Empire, and It's a Trap, which is a parody of Return of the Jedi. And I remember watching it, I'm like, this is Star Wars, but just through the lens of Family Guy, and it was so cool. I really did. I almost felt like I was watching Star Wars for the first time, because I was seeing it in a new way that was different, but it was the same story, and I feel like they were really able to capture the essence of Star Wars, and, you know, kind of what it means, and, you know, like, you know, all the feelings you get, and they really fit it into like these hour-long episodes, and it's really impressive. For me personally, you know, like when I watch these, I get the same feelings that I do watching Star Wars, and that's one of the reasons I love these so much, because they're so much easier to like. Not necessarily to watch, because I can watch Star Wars every day for the rest of my life, but with these, it's like, it's more of an easier watch, because when I'm watching Star Wars, I like get invested, like I get zoned in. When I'm watching these, I'm just like, even though when I'm watching the original trilogy I have fun, this I still have fun, but it's much lighter, you know, but I prefer actual Star Wars to these, but these still definitely capture the essences. They're not perfect. There are a few flaws with these that I will get into, but I love them. So yeah, I'm gonna get into I'm gonna get into a little bit of the backstories of these, because that was one of the first things that I like really started to think about after I bought all these, and after like I had watched them all in succession, really thinking about how did they do this. So when I got the DVDs, I got the special edition of Blue Harvest. It comes in like a bigger box, which came with a T-shirt and all sorts of other stuff. Anyway, I got the special edition of Blue Harvest, and this comes with about a half-hour featurette in the making of Blue Harvest, and like how it came to fruition. It was actually pretty interesting, and it was pretty interesting. So what it was is basically, the people at Family Guy started making all these like references and, you know, things in their all these Star Wars cutaways, right, in their episodes. So the Fox lawyers were like, okay, look, you're referencing Star Wars a lot. If we're going to keep doing this, we actually have to get approval from Lucasfilm, or else we're going to get sued. So when they were doing the next couple references and cutaways and skits, they had to get Lucasfilm to approve them every time. And Lucasfilm was actually really cool about it. They said, yeah, go with it, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then one day, Lucasfilm was like, hey, you know what, we can just like set up a contract that way, you know, you can just use Star Wars however you want, you know, as long as you don't like mess with the property or anything. And they were like, great. And then, like, you know, people at Family Guy and Fox and everyone was like, hey, what if we just make an episode entirely dedicated to Star Wars? And they did, and it's awesome. And in the featurette, you get to see all of the animators and the director and the writers and all those people behind this episode and the other 2 episodes, and you get to see them, like, take their love for Star Wars, because the people behind Family Guy love Star Wars, which isn't a big surprise. And they get to use that and use it in their work and just make something that is straight from the heart. And you can really tell these films are. That's like one of the biggest things I love about these Family Guy episodes. It's like they have so much heart to them. You know, you can really feel that like all the people behind it took extra care because they cared about it a lot and they wanted to respect the source material, which they did. So yeah, making behind this film, that. And then afterwards, when the ratings were super high and they made crap tons of money, Fox was like, oh, we're making 2 more. Because originally they were only going to make this one. And these 2 are great too, but Blue Harvest is definitely my favorite. It's just fantastic. So we'll just talk about Blue Harvest a little. I'm not going to summarize the plot of Star Wars, but I'm just going to talk about, you know, a little bit of the story and how it might be changed and stuff. So essentially, what this is, it is just a retelling of Star Wars, which came out in 1977 through the lens of Family Guy. It's the same plot line, essentially. All the same big beats happen. A few little things are taken out simply for time's sake. A few little scenes and things like that, and you know, like nothing huge, nothing that I can really think of. When I'm watching it, basically, they never really cut out whole scenes. Most of the time, they just kind of shorten scenes, you know, and take out a few lines of dialogue to really pack it all in, or they change certain things, like, you know, to make it more Family Guy-esque and more comedic rather than all serious. So yeah, so it's the story of Star Wars, and they don't. One thing I like about it is that they don't really have any cutaways. It gets away from that Family Guy humor that a lot of people don't like, of like having those cutaways, like they go do something completely unrelated to the episode. Where these, they really just do say self-contained, and they always are in on the story, and they never really cut away anything. Pretty much. There's a few times where they kind of cheat on that, but yeah, most of the gags in Blue Harvest, they really hit. It's why it's my favorite. It's just Blue Harvest, the first one. It's just very fresh. They have a lot of fun with the idea, and they get all their big ideas like off right at the gate, and it's fantastic. It's like every time I watch Blue Harvest, it's like a breath of fresh air, because everything just feels so just like made with love, and it's all just so great, and it's new, and everything's just so happy, you know. And it's one of the reasons why it's my favorite. It has all those great ideas, and I think they chose each character for who they are perfectly. All the choices are great. Yeah, Chris was a great choice for Luke, because I like the fact that we get a Chris-centric story, because at the point when Blue Harvest came out, we never really had an episode dedicated to Chris, and I really like that Chris is able to kind of be a badass. He's the one character on Family Guy that I think has the least character development before this, and you really got to like see Seth Green, you know, kind of like shine, you know, in a way. It's really cool. That's just one of the things I like about it. It takes one of the more minor characters in the show and like kind of emphasizes it completely around him, which I really like. Yes, a lot of the choices were great. Herbert the Pervert as Obi-Wan was okay. I think it might send the wrong message to people who haven't seen Star Wars or aren't fans of Star Wars about Obi-Wan. But I like all the gags they had with him, and it makes sense because Chris is Luke. Let's see, Stewie as Darth Vader is just fantastic. They have a lot of fun with that, and I think, you know, they have a lot of fun messing around with that, like, you know, huge presence and just putting in such a small. But no, Stewie's a great villain in general, so I think it's pretty cool that he gets to slip into their favorite role. He plays kind of like this different angle, and he has, like, you know, they have a lot of fun with it. But I think my favorite characterization, like, character matchup that I don't think people would naturally see, like beforehand, that like they'd naturally put if they could put family characters in Star Wars, is Peter as Han Solo and Brian as Chewbacca. That, like, team up for me, that, like, those characters, matching up with those characters is just perfect. And I love how he's just able to, like, Peter is able to slip into, like, that rebellious role, and it's so funny, you know? Like, seeing Peter dressed up as Han Solo, every time I see it, it makes me happy, it makes me smile. It's just a lot of fun, because it's just a lot of fun. Just, like, seeing these iconic characters getting in, like, you know, being, like, portrayed in this Family Guy-esque way. It's just so much fun for me, because I love the Family Guy characters, and I love the Star Wars characters, and it's great to see them come together. And that's, you know, one of the things I think people may have a problem with, because if you don't like Family Guy and you love Star Wars, I think this is definitely not going to turn you over, because it has those Family Guy-isms, and that's really the whole point. It's supposed to, you know, I think it's great for people who maybe aren't a fan of Star Wars or haven't seen Star Wars, who want to see it through a more familiar and comfortable lens. I think that's great, because I know a lot of my friends definitely prefer these over Star Wars because it's Family Guy, and they don't like Star Wars because it's old, which, you know, I don't like, but, you know, still, it lets people have a more accessible, new people have a more accessible way to get into the franchise, which I really like, and I think they do a great job at that. Although these episodes aren't necessarily for those people, it's for the people who both love Family Guy and the people who both love Star Wars, and it serves them the best justice because they really do pay respect in this first film. So yeah, that's pretty much the first one. It's fantastic. One of the things that shocked me when I, like, really watched it is how great it all looked. All the CG elements, all the drawn stuff, everything was very detailed. There were shadows. All the action looked great. Some of it looked like it could have been stripped from, like, you know, the actual film, which it wasn't. All of it was CG, and it looked really good. And all the action was fun. And the soundtrack, my God, it is Star Wars, and they add a recursive loop to all the sounds. I think they called it to make it seem like it ends naturally. But yeah, it's just fantastic. The score, you know, it really puts me in there, and I love that you just get to hear that original soundtrack, you know, coupled, like, with this epic story through this Family Guy lens, and it's funny, and it's still epic at the same time. So, Blue Harvest, love it. I hung the t-shirt up on my wall. I might, like, put a video of that, or a picture or something. And we're back without a cut. Well, actually with a cut. There was a cut. I had cuts. So I summarized Blue Harvest, and I got all my big things, but the whole trilogy out of the way, if you're still listening and paying attention. So, Blue Harvest, favorite of the trilogy. I give this, like, my fanboy wants to give all of these, like, a bajillion out of 10s, because I love them so much. But from a critic standpoint, not every single joke hits, but all the ideas are fresh. It's made with heart. It's really enjoyable to watch. I can't think of really a single negative thing about it. But obviously I'd rather watch, like, the original Star Wars, like, if I had to choose between, like, for the rest of my life. So I'm gonna give this, like, a 9.5 out of 10. It's almost perfect for me. Now we get to what is my, yeah, I'm gonna call it, yeah, my least favorite of the trilogy, but I still love it. Something, something, something Dark Side. Yes, there are 3 somethings. It's from Family Guy Cutaway. Now, something, something, something Dark Side follows the story of Empire Strikes Back, follows it very well. A lot of the gags work, but I think that the only problem that this film really has is that it has the least amount of things to feed off of when it comes to the comedy. The first one had the advantage of being the first one, so it was able to get, like, all those things about it being Star Wars out of the way, and it's able to, like, you know, make fun of those things and lightsabers and stuff, and it has the most options for ideas. And It's a Trap has an advantage because it's apparently Return of the Jedi, which is considered the worst, and they're able to make fun of that idea. Plus, the Seth MacFarlane universe has come along so much that they already kind of, like, have this established group of characters that they can use at that point, you know, and they're able to bring in new ideas and things like that. So something Dark Side had the most disadvantage of all of them. And yeah, but no, I still love this. Not as many of the jokes hit as in the first one, but it's still really enjoyable. It's a lot of fun to see, you know, Star Wars through the Family Guy lens. I really like seeing that movie guy as Yoda. I thought that was pretty cool. I love the freaking, like, the Russian, the Rocky 4, the Russian, being in there. That was cool. With the whole montage sequence, the music, that was fun. Yeah, no, and one thing I really like about this is that it shows more of, like, the action can still be exciting. Like, the final confrontation between Chris and Stewie, like, their little bits of fight were done really well. It looked really cool. It all sounded great. All the sound effects are, like, just like the original Star Wars, like the lack of music in that scene, but the starkness of it. It's really great. The lighting in that scene, it's really cool. The the coloration, like, there are some like scenes that really do look beautiful. Like, even it's like a 2D Family Guy-esque, like painting basically. It all looks great. It all sounds great. All the characters are still great. It's still a lot of fun. It's still really enjoyable to watch. There's one joke. I don't know if it's in the TV version. I doubt it's in the TV version. But it's like during the Battle of Hoth, when Luke has to go inside of a walker. They make a joke that I think they should have kept out. It was a really bad joke, and I thought it was in bad taste. But no, it's creative. Life's creative. They can do it if they want. Just something that always takes me out because I'm like, ooh, can't believe they did that. If you've seen the DVD version, then you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, one other thing I really like about this is, you get the commentaries on all these, and they're really good. I can't think of a lot more to say about something somebody said. Oh, I love the gag at the beginning with the snow monster being the Cookie Monster. Gets me every time. I think it's hilarious. And I remember I forgot about it when I watched these seriously, and then, like, I was cracking up. And my favorite joke that I don't want to say here is at the end of this. I'm just going to leave it to you. It's like, I'm just going to say it's what the robot says after Luke gets his robot arm put off, that, like, put on his arm. And if you're my friend, then you probably know what it is. If you don't, then, well, you're not my friend that much. You are, whoever's watching. I hope you're my friend. So yeah, that's it for some Dark Sides. My least favorite of this trilogy, if I had to rate it, as a fanboy, I fanboy about this the least, but I'd still, like, give it a 10 out of 10 as a fanboy. But from a critical standpoint, I'll give it like a 8.5, an 8 out of 10. It's still a lot of fun, but it's just, it doesn't have that same energy the first one does, which isn't necessarily its fault. It's based off of the darkest of, the actual Star Wars trilogy, so, I don't blame it. Now on to what used to be my favorite, now Blue Harvest is my favorite, It's a Trap. So It's a Trap, it's, the first thing that's great about it is that the visual quality, even on DVD in this film and, like, on screen, is great. It's at the point where everything was, in 16:9, and it was all in HD, the episodes, so it looks the best, and it does look fantastic. All the characters are great. At this point, the Seth MacFarlane universe, they bring in characters from, like, the expanded Seth MacFarlane universe, like the Cleveland Show and American Dad, which really lets, some funny character moments. You see characters interact that wouldn't normally interact, and it's a lot of fun, like, Mort and Rollo, being, being Lando and that, like, alien thing, Millennium Falcon. That was a lot of fun, and that was a really well done fight with the, all the people and such. But yeah, so It's a Trap. I really like how it was able to, like, make fun of a lot of the things that were wrong with Return of the Jedi. Like, the Ewoks, and, like, they make fun of the whole slave lay outfit thing, and I love the Rush Limbaugh being the Rancor joke. That was awesome. When the first time I got it, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. But a lot of my friends who watch it who don't know what Rush Limbaugh is, they just, like, look confused. It's very... Yeah, so I love It's a Trap. I love the final confrontation at the end of this film. Darth Vader doesn't go, no! Says something funny. But, yeah. So, yeah, it's all done very well. It's my, it's my second favorite. I don't know what else to say that I haven't really said about this whole thing. It's a great retelling of Return of the Jedi. It's a lot of fun. I love that, what's his name? The bear from Cleveland Show is all the Ewoks. See, It's a Trap is fun. Like, all these films, they're episodes. I call them films. I like to think of them as films. Are a lot of fun. Another pairing that I forgot to mention about the whole trilogy, that, shines here and shines in all of them, is Quagmire and Cleveland being R2-D2 and C-3PO. I would never think about that at first as, like, my obvious choices, but after seeing it, it is so awesome. They're, like, their banter with one another is just fantastic, and I love in the first film, and I use this as a joke sometimes. It's like, where Cleveland's like going away from, like, Quagmire or C-3PO, and he's like, hey, what's wrong? And he's like, you can kiss the lower half of the back of the canister that is my body, and then he goes away. Just love that stuff. But yeah, no, they work well together, and I really like how their characters meshed up. I can't really think about anything negative, or well, I can't think of any more positives or negatives about this film. Like I said, it doesn't reach the same energy level as that first one, Blue Harvest, but it's higher than something Dark Side. It's definitely better than that, because more jokes hit. You know, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it looks the best. It sounds great. It's the original soundtrack, like the other two. So yeah, it's a trap. And oh, and this also has the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit thing, which is like a 30-minute long Star Wars trivia game between the writers of Family Guy, and I really enjoy that because it lets you see, like, you know, how these Family Guy writers and people, you know, they interact, and, you know, like, it lets you kind of, it's I just think it's a lot of fun to watch. It's something that I enjoyed watching, so yeah, it's a trap. Now let's see, anything else I want to mention about these? I love these. Something really cool that you might be interested in, that I'll show you, is that I'll put up in the video I'll put up like an actual picture, hopefully, if I'm not lazy, or you just look in the back just to see them. But yeah, so all of the posters, all the box covers. Now, if you're familiar with those original Star Wars posters, which I have hanging up my wall back here, those were actually all painted. Those original Star Wars posters. Probably going to put up pictures of them in a second in the actual video. But yes, all those posters, and they also, the original VHS covers, they were painted, and they're painted beautifully. So when the Family Guy DVDs for Star Wars came out, they decided to paint theirs too, and they're actually painted with, like, you know, actual paints. They're not digitally painted. So all these covers, they're actually painted. If you can take a close look, my favorite of them is something Dark Side. Just look at it, it's beautiful. The coloration is almost as beautiful as the actual one. You know, it's a trap. Yeah, they're all actually painted, which is something that's really interesting. Not a lot of people might know that. But yeah, so that's Family Guy Star Wars. Now, can't think of a lot else to say. So yeah, that's my video. So I made this video because apparently a lot more friends like to hear me talk about movies than I thought. So yeah.